Hi, everybody. I hope you're all well. I was supposed to have a live this evening, but um, there's been some technical problems, and where I'm going to be, there's no Wi-Fi, and I've got very poor connection. So, um, quite disappointed because I really wanted to do the live this evening, but I thought that a good alternative would be for me to just record this session. So apologies for those of you who were expecting the live, but we couldn't do this. My water was very upset, but it is what it is. And I really want to drop this content because I think that this is important. I'm feeling really inspired to do this. Am I a bit shiny? I'm feeling really inspired to do this because, this is my constitution. And at the beginning, I really, when I volunteered to do the water element, I thought, oh my God, let me just go into my notes and just see everything and just take notes on all the content that I've learned with Michelle and Leah. And then I thought, do you know what? Let me not do that. This is a very scholarly approach to presenting, very, very cerebral, academic, and I embody the water constitution. I've studied it, I've lived it, I've experimented with myself. So, water is about trust. So I should be able to trust my body to transmit what needs to be transmitted to you. And I should trust that my body has absorbed all the information that that I needed. And it's something that I've realized because I had a very academic approach to retaining information, which is very much based on lack of trust. And I realize when I speak about the water element to other people, because I'm obsessed, so everybody knows about water elements. I realized that I've absorbed so many things from the 5 element theory. So let me just trust that body. However, I just pushed the button a little further and just told myself, well, go with the flow, no notes, and just do your thing. But I didn't have enough trust in myself to do that. So I have taken a little bit of notes, even though I haven't checked any of my previous notes, but I did write a little structure. And that is showing you a little example of water in trust, as in, I trust my body to transmit, I trust my body to explain, but then still needing to control the structure, still needing to control and not going with the flow, which is rooted in lack of trust. So you can see just in that example that trust and a lack of trust. So what I'm going to do today is just explain. I'm not going to go into the theory of it. I love the theory, but I don't like explaining something that is theoretical. I don't like that. So I'm just going to present you the water elements, but through my own embodiment of the water element and through what I observe also outside of myself of the water elements. So let me start with the ability, the capacity that is linked to water. And water is the ability to appropriately assess a situation and the risks it may present and make appropriate decisions based on this assessment. So it's basically risk assessment. And it sounds it sounds a bit cold because when you hear risk assessment, you think, oh, company, business, cold. But actually, it is pretty powerful because risk assessment is something that we do every second of our lives. Every second of our life, we are presented with a situation, and before, well, usually before we take action, well, actually all the time, before we take action, we assess the situation. So it could be a split second, or it could be within a length of time. And it's this assessment that can be appropriate or inappropriate. And this is what basically the water is all about. But it is very powerful. It is very powerful because this is what helps us basically stay alive. Risk assessment. Um, so in order to assess those risks appropriately, what is it that you need? Well, you need to have the wisdom and the trust in your own wisdom to be able to make those appropriate decisions and to be able to make those aligned actions. It's and so that's why water is all about, it's about power, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. It's about trust, but trust in what you are and in your own wisdom, and it's about that wisdom. And with that combination, just you trusting your own inner compass, basically, that is what allows you to take what we call inspired action. So it's action that is inspired by the wisdom, by the trust, right? So I'd like to focus on the wisdom for a while, for a bit. And to me, the depth of that wisdom is limitless, because the wisdom that comes from water is the wisdom that comes from your return to origin. And what does that mean, return to origin? Because it's something that Michelle kept mentioning over and over again. And at the beginning, I wasn't sure what that meant until I started looking within myself. And the return to origin is the return to what you are at your core, at birth, right? So it's that ancestral chi. And I can actually feel the depth of that wisdom within me when I, sorry, let me just stop, because I really wanted to talk about the spirit of water, and that return to origin is the spirit of water, which is the ZHE. And this is what it is. It's pure power, is return to origin, and it's that ancestral wisdom that you get from beyond your lifetime. And the way it manifests is exactly that. It's, I see myself, and I see myself when I'm speaking to someone else, or with myself when my water is in balance. And it's, you get that wisdom from deep within and from beyond your own lifetime, beyond this lifetime. A lot of the time I hear myself speak to people and I'm like, but this, what you're saying, is not from your own experience. Where does it come from, that wisdom that you have? Because I do have a lot of wisdom. And that's what I've noticed when I started doing the 5 element theory. And I can feel that it comes from beyond me, beyond this shell, beyond this life experience that I have, and it does come from my ancestors. And there's a quote that I got from a Native American website, and this is what I love. It's how everything just, there's so many similarities between all the different indigenous philosophies, and I love that. And this quote, it says, "Your ancestors outnumber your fears. Feel their power." And can you imagine, think about this for 1 second. You being carried by your ancestors, all those ancestors and all the experience that they've gained, all the wisdom that they've gained through their own mistakes, through their own experience, through their own life experience. It's a whole army that we have behind us there, a whole army. And when I say that, that reminds me again of another philosophy that is a Congolese philosophy, where one of the mentors, that's what he talks about. He says, I've got all my ancestors behind me. Nothing can stop me. And that is where the trust is. That's where we get the trust from. That's where we get our trust from. It is inside, but it is given to us by all this army that we have behind us. And that I love. So another thing that I think is important, and this is where you see all the different, hang on, sorry, okay. And this is where we see how everything fits, is that water holds memory. Water holds memory. And again, we're going back to that ancestral wisdom, the memory of who we are and the memory of what we've gained through our ancestors. So with that wisdom, with that trust, we're able to take inspired actions and go with the flow. So water is all about flow, right? Following our own flow. And to me, inspired action is effortless. It is action. It is action. Now, sometimes it's just lack of action. Sometimes it's just lack of action. It's just you not doing anything and just waiting and just being and just feeling, right? But when we say inspired action, it's action that feels effortless. It feels flowy. You're on a roll. You're doing things and you're being carried, and you feel that you're carried, and it's that flow. When you're in water and you trust that the water is going to carry you where you need to go. And this is what inspired action is. And it's that fearless flow. And once you have that trust, once you're taking those inspired action, nothing can stop you. And I can feel that in myself. Nothing can stop me when I'm in trust. Nothing can stop me. And it's something that you can see in the actions that I take and how I feel, but you can also see it physically. I think you can see that water power in someone's eyes. And I'm going to give you an example that you can all relate to. When I look at Leah is a metal constitution, but when I look at Leah's eyes, I see water. Sorry, just making sure, because I wanted to give you another quote. Yeah. When I look at Leah, when she speaks, those eyes that she has that are they're fearless, they're so intense, they're sparkling, and they look at you straight. This is, to me, the eyes of water, of that watery power. So just have a look. Yes. So let me read you that quote, which is something that was given to me by Michelle, and it's from I can't remember, Abraham Hicks and Angela Hicks, a book from them. Water in nature. Water is the most yin of all elements. It is everywhere and has no shape, taking only the form given by containers, rivers, banks, and beds of the oceans. Although it is the softest substance, it can wear away the hardest rock and move around any obstacle to penetrate beyond. It appears as both a solid and a gas. Water filters through the earth, enters through the roots of the trees, and flows upwards. In response to warmth, it turns into gas and appears in the sky as clouds, ultimately to fall as rain, moistening whatever it falls upon and reappearing in streams, rivers, and oceans. So water is pure power, and it's power that comes from within, not the power that we think about, and actually that particular power, those power hungry people, that are tyrant, blah, 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 is water when it's out of balance. It's water that wants to control. It's water that doesn't trust. The power that I'm talking about is that flowy power that comes from within. But when water doesn't flow, when we are not in trust, when we're not following the flow, the water gets stagnant and it gets polluted. And that's when all the imbalances come out. So it's either two situations. It's water that gets stagnant or water that I don't even know how to pronounce that. Water that is completely out of control, that isn't contained. So you've got that stagnation, paralyzed will, and I'm going to talk about the imbalances in a minute, paralyzed will, stagnation, or just going completely hysterical, completely crazy, like a tsunami. It's like, I'm not trusting, let me just go and do shit. Or stagnant, and I can't do shit because I'm paralyzed, basically. So I'm going to talk about those imbalances. I'm going to talk about them now. So from absolute trust, going with the flow, inspired action, wisdom, aligned instinctual power, aligned willpower, we go into lack of trust. And this is something that I oscillate between all the time, because, water is my constitution. And so that superpower becomes your Achilles heel. And so when you're not in trust, what do? You seek reassurance. And I actually, when I was writing my notes, I was going to say you seek reassurance outside of yourself, but actually just that thing of seeking reassurance means that you're not in trust. So just the fact of seeking reassurance means that you're seeking it outside of yourself anyway, because if you are in trust, you don't need to seek reassurance. And that's something that I notice. When I am in trust, I do not seek reassurance. And I can appear to be quite arrogant to people. And I remember I was talking to my friend and she said, you're coming back home because after 26 years of being outside, I've just come back to Martinique. And that I have full trust in. I know that the process is going to be difficult, but the decision to come back to Martinique was aligned action. I remember she told me, are you sure? And I looked at her, I said, yes. And that yes wasn't, I'm going to prove you that, I've made the right decision. No, it's a yes. There is no yes and because justifying. No, yes. I don't have to prove anything because I know this I needed to do, right? So when you start seeking reassurance, that's when you start justifying yourself to others, to yourself. And you're seeking that reassurance outside of yourself, but obviously it works for like 2 days or 2 minutes, and then it stops. So lack of trust is constantly seeking reassurance outside of yourself. And we do it in so many different ways. So many different ways. So I'll give you an example of this. I tire myself sometimes, but hey, that's just the way it is. A small way that I seek reassurance, and then I'll show you other ways that you can seek reassurance, and that is what creates imbalances. I hate public transport, and so my phobia is to miss a train or a flight or whatever. So I will check my map, the routes, the itinerary, and I've checked it. I know that's what it is. I've checked it before leaving my house, but I will check it about 10 times until the bus comes or the train or the metro, or 10 times. because I'm not in trust. I'm just like, oh, what if, what if, what if, what if? So it's that seeking reassurance by constantly checking my phone, saying, okay, am I in the right way? And sometimes it's a route that I know. I know this route. I take it all the time, but I cannot help just checking and rechecking and rechecking over and over again. This is typical water imbalance of someone needing reassurance because you're not trusting. And here you're not trusting the outside, you're not trusting the others, but also you're not trusting yourself that you have checked it and that things are fine. It's ridiculous. And I say that with all the love to all of you that are doing that because I do it. And right now, it just makes me laugh. I laugh at my imbalances because, let's just take ourselves a little less seriously and not go, oh my God, this is an imbalance and I have to get over this and blah, blah, blah. And just, that's the way it is. We're aware of it. It's funny when you think about it, really. It's tiring sometimes, but it's funny. So, yeah, so it's one of the ways that I seek reassurance. How else does lack of trust or seeking reassurance manifest itself? Control. You trying to control all the fucking variables of something just to make sure that it happens the way you want it to happen. That is complete lack of trust. And that's also a way of seeking reassurance. Okay, so let me just make sure that let me just do this, let me just do that, let me just do this, let me just do that. And I'll give you an example. I mean, I've got examples within myself, but I'll give you an example within my best friend. She's also what's a constitution. And when Christelle gives a presentation, and she knows, she's got that knowledge, and when she explains it to me, she doesn't need any preparation for that presentation, but she learns it by heart. She tells me, this is what she tells me. She tells me, when I prepare a presentation, I learn it, and until I know it by heart. I can do it back and forth. I can start from the end, go back to the beginning. I can do it, she just knows it by heart. And I keep telling her, but Christelle, you don't need that because you've got the knowledge. When you explain it to me, this is you explaining your knowledge to me. You don't need that. But she has to control all the variables just to make sure. And that's typical water imbalance, that need to control everything or that need to control. Impatience. Now, there's a difference between anticipation and excitement when you know that something is coming your way, and impatience. And impatience to me is lack of trust. Because if you're feeling impatient, that means that you're not really trusting that this thing is going to come. And I live that every day. I live that every day. When I, there's, and I can feel that within myself. The difference between that is happening, like the moment I took the decision that I was going to go to Martinique, I set the dates. I knew I was going to do it no matter what. There was no impatience. There was excitement. There was fear, but there was no impatience. But when I do not have trust that something is happening, it's going to be like, when is it already? I want this now, because if I have it now, then I'm going to be reassured that it's coming. So impatience is one of those things. Agitation, restlessness. That's me. Restlessness, agitation. You're like, it's that anxiety that comes from not trusting, because you've got anxiety in all 5 elements, but the root of that anxiety is different. And the anxiety within water is lack of trust. So it's that restlessness. So you start doing. You're agitated. You can't stop. Oh, fuck's sake. Give me 1 second. Okay. Yes. So what was I saying? Yes. So you can't sit still. You need to be doing, because doing is going to reassure you. because of that fear of the void, of the emptiness of not doing. And that is rooted also in lack of trust. And so you see, for example, when people are agitated, you know, they're moving their legs. It's like that is that empty heat and agitation. That is water as well. You can find it in other elements, but the one that I'm explaining is that I need to be doing, because oh my God, if I don't do, then I don't know what I'm, you know, then what is going to happen to me? And then from that comes the overwork, doing. There is overwork, there is overdoing, there is doing too much in metal as well, but that's rooted in not being enough. The overwork that I'm talking about in water is, again, lack of trust, uninspired action. And I'm going to give you a big example of me. That was me in May. Uninspired action, just doing. Ooh, give me 1 second. I need to go and plug my phone. Give me my computer. Give me 1 second. Right. Computer is plugged in. I can carry on. And where was I? Yes, overwork. And this is something that is one of my biggest imbalances, pathologies. Is just doing, overworking. And I can feel it when my kidneys are telling me, stop. You're getting saturated. You can feel it. Your brain is full. You're getting so saturated. Your kidneys are telling you, and I'll speak about the kidneys in a minute. Your kidneys are exhausted. You can feel, I can feel it in my back. I can feel it everywhere. And I keep going. I keep going because I do not know how to stop. Because stopping means I'm not in control, right? And I don't know what's coming. So overwork and doing, uninspired action. And then the opposite of that agitation is paralyzed will. Paralyzed will. I would say that there's this thin line between paralyzed will and avoidance. Or it's probably the same thing. I need to think about that. But anyway, paralyzed will, avoidance, not wanting to do the thing because your water is stagnated. You're exhausted. You're in fear of what is going to happen if you do, right? So that is paralyzed will. You're just, and that happens to me. That happens to me on so many occasions where I just freeze. I freeze. And when that happens, I just need to stop. And in a minute, I'll give you what it is that you can do to just put that water back into balance. Fear. And when I say fear, because a lot of people, and that's what I see in on a lot of social media, so, you know, ignore your fear. Fear is a liar. Fear is blah, blah, blah. Fear is this. You know, put fear at the back seats. And I don't agree with that, because that is exactly what created my anxiety to begin with, is repressed fear. My friends keep telling me, because when I tell them that I'm a water constitution and fear is the overarching emotion of water, and fear, I have fear in a lot of aspects of my life. And when I say that to my friends, they all go like, wow, really? You? Because they don't see it. And this is the typical face of a water constitution, is poker face. No reaction, stillness. And is that stillness that you could see in animals as well? When they're in fear, for their life, they just become really still, prepared to jump, prepared to take action. And that is, the way it manifests within me is repressed fear. I do not express my fear. I don't like to say that I'm in fear. And so no one, unless you know me and unless you can spot small things, people will not see that I'm in fear. And so that repressed fear is super toxic. Super toxic. Repressing your fears, I can actually feel it. And I remember when I used to repress my fear, I had so many, bladder issues, back issues, because I was just repressing it. Fear in itself is super healthy. It's necessary. I mean, it's fear that makes us, be alive. It's fear that, makes us get shit done. But fear that is out of control, fear that is disproportionate, it's, that inappropriate assessment of the risks. And when you're looking, it's me thinking about parallel parking and thinking that if I don't park correctly, I'm going to die. That is obviously inappropriate fear. It's my nervous system is just going completely hysterical at the thought of parking a car, right? So there is irrational fear, and there is fear that is quite healthy because it's make you stay alive, right? And there's also repressed fear, which is me. Compulsive, addictive behaviors. And that's where I'm going back to control. You having an addiction to something, it could be to shopping, online shopping. Let me just give you my addictive behaviors. Well, I'll give you two. I won't give you the whole things because I don't want to get into that. Online shopping. When I'm upset, when I'm stressed, I just do online shopping because this is the one thing that I can control. Candy Crush. Before leaving to come here, everything was intense. Every aspect of my life was moving. I had no control over anything, which is horrible for a water constitution. And so I played Candy Crush. I remember one day playing Candy Crush for like 4 hours, cheating the phone, changing the time so I could get more lives for 4 hours. And my partner was like, Sophie, when you do that, I know that there's something there. There's anxiety, because he knows me. And that's what it was. It was me that I was able to control. It gave me a sense of control. So it's those type of addictions, compulsive behaviors that give you a sense of control. What else? Phobias. Obviously, phobias are, absolute lack of trust. But it's funny because I'll give you an example with me again. Between my total lack of trust and me avoiding and doing, like historical things versus lack of complete trust. I can go into a forest because when I'm in nature, that's when I feel safe. Alone in nature, could be crazy for some people, but I can go into a forest next to a river at night on my own and I'll be fine. But ask me to parallel park and I will park 2 kilometers away from the spots just so that I don't have to parallel park. Because it's that phobia, is that, oh my, it's avoidance and paralyzed will. It's all those imbalances mixed together. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to have to face it. Let me just avoid the problem altogether and just go and park miles away from, I'm going to walk, I'm going to be sweaty when I arrive, but driving is a bit of a phobia for me because I do not feel in control when I drive. So these are only some of the imbalances. I didn't want to give you a whole list because it's just long. So I've just given you the ones that resonate the most for me, because again, I'm talking about water through my own experience and through my own embodiment of the water element. And I wanted to talk about the kidneys for a moment. I mean, there are two organs associated with water, and it's the bladder and the kidneys. But I really want to focus on the kidneys because the kidney essence, that kidney chi, which is Jing, is our life force energy. This is the energy that we get at birth. And it's, again, going back to origin, it's that energy that we get at birth, that energy that is linked to our origin, to our ancestors, and it's our life force, our life force. This is what is going to give us that impulse to take actions, to go, to, to make decisions, to just move through life. So it's essential energy. And the thing is, that energy gets depleted. Once it gets depleted, you can't replete it. I don't know whether repeat is a word, but anyway, I'm sure you understand it. That's it. You've lost that chi. So it is vital that we nurture the kidneys, because this is our kidneys give us that life force. And again, when the kidneys are not nurtured, that's when you get paralyzed will. When you overdo, you deplete your kidneys. And that's energy that you can't get back. So it's imperative that we nourish our water element and our kidneys. And again, just to show you how everything is linked, kidneys are, what do? They filters the blood. They filter the blood, right? They filter our blood. So again, we're going back to the blood is our liquid, is the water, it's part of our internal waters, right? So the kidneys are filtering our internal waters. So if those waters are completely out of balance, they're like fucked up, that is going to affect the kidneys as well, and vice versa. If the kidneys are not in integrity, and what I mean by integrity is nourished, nurtured, nurtured, then they're going to have an impact on our emotional state within the water element. And this is something that I've experienced the minute I started to look after my kidneys. So many of the emotional states that I had that I didn't know, I didn't really understand why I had them, and that anxiety. Don't get me wrong, I still have anxiety, because it's not just about, oh, I know about my water constitution, that's it. I'm healed. No, it's about being aware. It's about awareness. When those imbalances come back, because they do, my imbalances come back, but I'm aware of that. And so I can put things in place. I can reach into my own origins. I can reach within myself to bring myself back in balance. And this is what it is. It's ebbs and flows. It's, we're here to experience life. So nurturing your kidneys is essential. And I'm going to give you some advice in a moment of how you can do that. But I would like to give you an example of my water being completely out of balance. And that was in May. In May, to me, that May was the worst month for me, because financially things were not going my way and I needed to make money. So fear and lack of trust started creeping up. And that's when the pathology started again. Overwork, doing, uninspired actions, and just anxiety, agitation. From agitation to paralyzed will, because I was not in trust that I could make the money that I wanted to. And so it became desperation. And I did not want, and that's the thing, I was aware of that. And I did not want to be in desperation. I didn't want to give out my offers from a desperate mindset, because then the energy is different. I wanted to, I wanted my offers to come from an inspired energy, right? Not from that, oh my God, I need to make money. And so, but I wasn't able to reverse that situation for the whole month of May, until I reached a point where I had to ask my father for money. And to me, telling my father that things are not going the way they should is my definition of failure. It's not, I mean, it's father issues, you know, mental shit. We're not going to go into that. But the having to ask my father for money was just the ultimate failure for me. And that day, I remember it was end of May. That day when I had to do it, to me, I had hit rock bottom. And so I was so depleted. I was so exhausted, which was good in a way, because then I couldn't do anymore. I had to stop. I could not do anymore. And that day, and I remember I had people that kept on telling me, you need to trust, you need to trust, you need to trust. And that day I got so pissed off. My wood just started manifesting. I got so pissed off with the universe. I got pissed off at the people that were telling me to trust. And I remember I was crying and I told the universe, fuck you. I'm doing all the things. I'm doing the practice. I'm doing the meditation. I'm doing the journaling. I'm doing all the things. I'm writing down the intentions. And I'm not getting anything. So fuck you. And no, I will not pretend to be interested. And that's the thing. I will not pretend to be in trust. Because right now, I am not in trust. And it's your fault. Okay, well, you know, I was being resentful and all of that. But, you know, it was like, it's your fault because I'm doing all the things and you're not delivering. So fuck you. But it was fear, anger, and I acknowledged my lack of trust. And this is something that I need to say here. It's okay to not have trust. If you do not have trust, do not beat yourself into trusting. Acknowledge that lack of trust, because in acknowledging that lack of trust, there is so much wisdom. You start speaking with the lack of trust. What is beneath that lack of trust? And that day I acknowledged, I said, you know what? I am not in trust right now. And the minute I said that, I heard it. That reminder from my ancestors, stop, stop, stop what you're doing. And I feel like crying right now because this was such a powerful moment of going back within to my origin. And I could feel my ancestors behind me just going, stop. And I stopped. And I was just on my couch doing nothing. I stopped. And I just went back to me. And I acknowledged the fear. I acknowledged the distress. I acknowledged the lack of trust, and I went within and I was like, what is beneath you? Lack of trust, just speak to me. And I just let it express itself. And it was just that fear of being disappointed. There was so much. I'm not going to go into details because, you know, we only have an hour. And, you know, I'm water, so I've got all the words. But I just stopped and I just felt. And I remember, and I think I must have gotten the biggest download. I don't know if it's ever, because I ever have a bad memory, but it felt like such a powerful download of information, of truth about me. I understood what failure meant for me, and I understood what I needed to do. I needed to go back to my basics. What did I need? What do I need to be in trust? And I went back to the basics. And there I could feel the wisdom just coming back down into me. And I started writing, this is what I need right now to calm myself down. This is what I need. And yes, there is lack of trust, but this is what I need to go back into trust. It was a very powerful month. It was a very powerful moment. And so this is where I'm going to back to the advice. Stop. When you're agitated, when you're restless, when you're feeling all the things, that lack of trust, that fear, everything, stop and rest. Rest your kidneys. That agitation, that is your origin telling you, listen, your body is actually going out of control. Stop. rest, reset, right? And rest. And it's not just stopping in a situation of crisis. It's resting on a regular basis. And I'm saying that for both you, for everybody actually, because, you know, it's not because you're a wood constitution that you don't have water. We're made of all the elements. So resting is essential for your water element to get it back into balance. And not just resting, doing meditation, checking your phone. This is not resting. I mean, meditation is resting, but it's doing nothing, being alone with yourself. And here, this is where we're going back. You know, fire is about having that compassion to listen to your heart and having that space to listen to your heart. And fire, water controls fire. So it's really resting, giving your heart that space to go back to your origin of who you are and your own wisdom and your inner compass, right? So rest, it's simple. It's simple and yet it's incredibly difficult. Do nothing for 15 minutes, at least 15 minutes a day. And I realize when I start with 15 minutes a day, I realize sometimes I can go an hour without doing anything. It feels great. And I remember when my partner came home, he was like, "Hi." And I was just like, because I was just getting all the downloads from doing nothing. And I was like, wait, I just need to just be for 1 minute and just receive. That's what it is. It's receiving. It's allowing yourself to receive from your metal, from that intuition, from your origin, from your ancestors, from everybody. Well, from everybody from within. Let the water be your guide. And I know it feels a bit like, well, what does that fucking mean anyway? There's so much wisdom in watching water because it's all about transmission, right? Watching the element express itself in nature gives you so much inner wisdom. Your body absorbs wisdom the way your brain is unable to. Just by watching the water, the way water that is healthy, right? So don't watch the fucking stagnant water. Go into the nature and watch the river, the way it flows, the way it goes around what rocks. Just watching this, your body absorbs all that wisdom from the water. So let water be your guide. Look at how water operates when it's healthy. It flows. And for that, there's 2 meditations. I'll see whether I've got time to do that, to explain those 2 meditations very quickly. Nurture your kidneys. Vital. They're vital organs. So you need to nurture your kidneys. How can you do that? Well, first of all, resting. But also there are certain things, foods that you can take that can help you, that can help you nurture your kidneys, like ginseng, good ginseng. Ginseng. I remember Michelle saying that. Ginseng is jing, that kidney essence, right? Himalayan salt, avoiding excessive salt, fried food, that's not good for your kidneys. And going back to the salt that comes from the depth of the earth, right? So volcanic salt, I use black salt as well, that comes from volcanoes, and Himalayan salt. This is healthy salt. Avoiding excessive salt, having blue food. So the color of water, as you can see, I like my dress, I'm going to show you. The color of water is blue. So any blue food is going to be good for you. So and any food that looks like your kidneys is going to be good for you. So kidney beans, blue cabbage, what else? Oh, I didn't write that down. I just wrote blue food. What is it called? Beet. Things like that are good for your kidneys. They're going to nurture your kidneys. And there are some exercises that are very good for your kidneys, like Qigong. This is something that I really like. And Qigong also shows you exercises that you can do to stimulate your kidneys. So for example, you know, these exercises that you do this. You'll see. I'm just showing you. And that helps stimulate your kidneys. And so there are two meditations that I do. And because I'm a water constitution, they resonate really powerfully for me. And one of them is, especially when I'm in a situation where there's so much change, to me, the way I see it is me being in stormy waters, right? And I had a little post on that, stormy waters. So you're in the water, there's nothing for you to hang on to. And all you have to do is just trust that you're not going to drown. But it's very unsettling. And you're like, oh my God, I'm going to drown. This is. So when I'm in those stormy waters, again, it's going back to the origin. I go back to the bottom. I go to the bottom of the ocean. I visualize myself at the bottom of this ocean. And at the bottom of the ocean, the foundation, the bed, the origin, everything is still. And everything will always be still. That's stormy water. This is the surface. But deep within, there's stillness. And it's you reaching out to that stillness, that remembrance of who you are, that strength. I do it by visualizing myself going back to the bottom of the ocean and just being there. And it feels so good. Another thing that I do, and this is about flow and letting shit happen and trusting, is picturing myself in the river and just not doing anything. I'm not trying to swim. I'm not trying to hang on to things. I'm just trusting that that river is going to carry me, and I just let it carry me. And I love doing that, because first of all, I can assess whether I'm in balance or not is when I'm visualizing this, and part of me just wants to control where I'm going. That's when I know that I'm out of balance. But also, there is so much. It's so good to just let yourself be carried. It feels so resting and so simple and so easy. And I love visualizing myself doing that, just letting myself be carried by water. So these are two of the meditations that I do that are particularly relevant to the water element and bring me back to who I am. So, oh my God, an hour straight. I'm so proud of myself. And you see, it's because I let it flow. I let it flow. Very proud of myself. Anyway, thank you so much for this. I hope that you've gained a knowledge, an understanding of the embodiment of what the water element. And I'm really sorry that we couldn't do the live. If you've got any questions or any comments, you can just drop them in the chat. Just tag me and I will answer any of your questions. Thank you very much.